Hello everyone, welcome to this channel once again. Today we shall be discussing dependent and independent variable. Remember in our last video we made an introduction to what dependent and independent variable is. I remember we said that dependent and independent variable are called cause and effect, with the dependent variable being the effect and the independent variable being the causal factor. Now today I would love to explain to you further that both dependent and independent variable also have their own variable of measurement. They are variables that needed a subvariable, or let me say another variable, to measure them. Dependent variable has a variable of measurement. Independent variables has its own variable of measurement also. Before I talk about their variables of measurement, I would love to tell you that while structuring your research title, the independent variable must come before the dependent variable. The independent variable must come before the dependent variable. It is only in rare occasion that a dependent variable can turn to the independent variable, while the independent variable will be turned to dependent variable, but it is kind of rare and it depends on the kind of research you want to do. But on a norms, that is, the rule of thumb is that the independent variable comes before the dependent variable while structuring your research title. Now, for the dependent variable, like I said, the dependent variable has its own units of measurements. The unit of measurements often depends on the kind of research you want to carry out, like the topic you're working on, your area of interest. For instance, let's say that I am interested in researching the economic performance of Nigeria. So definitely the variable of measurement for my dependent variable, you see, I said economic performance of Nigeria. Abi? No, I didn't really structure it as a title. I'm just saying, because if I structure it as a title, economic performance will be the dependent variable. Now, to measure the economic performance, then I will need the real GDP in order for me to measure economic performance. Remember, economic performance is a dependent variable. But for me to measure economic performance, I will need the real GDP to measure economic performance. Now, let's say I want to measure the performance of firm. These things I'm saying is not a proper structure, though. Performance of firm is a dependent variable. And there are different ways I can measure performance of firm. I can use return of interest. I can use return on interest, return on assets, return on income, not return on interest. I can use return on income, I can use return on assets, and other metrics that point towards performance. Now, there's something that is quite important that I also need you to know. For undergraduate level, your dependent variable in your research projects can always be one. In fact, it will only be one. You can have more than one matrix of measurements for your dependent variable. You can have up to 2, you can have up to 3, you can have up to 4, depending on what you're trying to capture and what you're trying to measure, or probably depending on your topic and your interests, majorly your interests, what you want to do. But majorly for undergraduate students, you cannot have more than one dependent variable of measurement. But for postgraduate students, master, PhD, you can have more than one. You can have up to 2, 3, 4, depending on your supervisor and your own area of interest and what you really want to work on. Now, independent variable rather on its own too has its own units of measurement. There are ways we can measure independent variable. Now, in the case of independent variable, you can have more than one, you can have up to 5, even 6 at times. For undergraduate students, you can have 3 independent variable. You can't work with 1, you can work with 2, at least 3. Now, if you want to extend it to further, will now depend on the discretion of your supervisor, but majorly it's always limited to 3. Now, for postgraduate students, you can have way more than 3. In fact, 4 self. I think 4 is always the standard. So 4, you can have to 5, you can have 6 for your independent variable. Now let's take for instance, in our last video, I made an example of the cash scarcity we experienced earlier on in this country, early this year. And let's say I am interested in that, in the effects of that cash scarcity. Remember I said that the cash scarcity comes as a result of the policy developments to redesign the naira, but there are things that underlines it. There are things that work to influence the scarcity. Now, for instance, let's say I'm interested in researching the aftermath, the effects it causes. So let's say I want to structure my topic this way, that the effects of the Naira redesign policy, the effects of the Naira redesign policy on the welfare of Nigerian citizens. The effects of the Naira redesign policy on the welfare of Nigerian citizens. Now, in this topic, the Naira redesign policy is the independent variable. It's standing on its own. Nothing affects it. It comes. Like, yes, it's normal. We want to redesign our Naira, which is okay. And nothing affects it. But it leads to another event. The welfare of Nigerian citizens. So the welfare of Nigerian citizens is the independent variable. Is the dependent variable. The welfare of Nigerian citizens is the dependent variable. Now, the welfare of Nigerian citizens has matrix of measurement. The Naira redesign policy has matrix of measurement. Now, starting with the independent variable, that is the Naira redesign policy, if I want to measure it, the matrix of measurements, I will measure the availability of the cash when it was redesigned. Does it have enough circulation? What about the time frame given for the citizen to return the old Naira back to the bank in order for them to have access to the new Naira? Was this time frame okay enough? Does it not affect, how does it affect the welfare of the citizen? Now, the Naira redesign, the volume, was it enough to go around the member of the public? Was it enough to reach out to everybody, both young and old, both privileged and less privileged. So if I keep talking on and on, you see, a lot of things affected the Naira redesign policy. Now, in fact, the time the policy was made, was it the best time that policy was made? How easy is it for the government to easily roll out another new currency if the ones they've already designed is not enough to go in circulation? You see, those are the metrics. Those are the metrics that I can use to measure the Naira redesign policy. Now, for the welfare of the citizen, what metric can I use to measure it? You know, hardship. The citizen experience hardship. The economy suffer. Households suffer too. People need to buy money with money. Inflation increase. So a lot of things happens that affected the welfare of the citizen negatively. Now remember, in our last video, I said that the independent variable has the ability, the power to affect the dependent variable either positively or negatively. Now, in the context of what I am trying to explain here, if we put together all the matrix of measurements of the independent variable and measure it against the effects, which is the dependent variable, we are going to realize that the policy affects the welfare of Nigeria citizens negatively. Because the effects of the causal factor, in fact, without even researching, we saw it. It was evident in the economy, how things were tough, how things were difficult. So always bear this in mind, that whenever you are structuring your interest into a researchable title, your independent variable comes before your dependent variable. And why structuring? Why structuring? Always ask yourself the question, what are the metrics of measurement? What are those things that I will use to measure my independence variable? What are those things that we use to measure my dependent variable? Because it is those metrics of the independent variable and the dependent variable that you are going to turn into your objective, your research objectives. That is those specific objectives. They are the ones that will make up your specific objectives, your research question, your hypothesis, in if the case may be, or if there is a need for that. So after structuring any of your interests into a title, ask further, research further. If there are no way you could measure them, either quantitatively or qualitatively, then you know that that topic is not researchable. Then you try to restructure your interest into a title that is workable, a title that is researchable. A title is researchable if there are units of measurement or metric of measurements for your independence variable and for your dependence variable. If you cannot identify the metrics of measurement for your independence variable and for your dependence variable, then your topic is not researchable. Always bear this in mind. What are you waiting for? Remember to subscribe to this channel. Turn on your notification button. Drop your question, and remember to share with your colleagues. See you in the next video.